Imagine for a moment that you are walking down a road paved with smooth cobblestones. It is Friday night, and it's very quiet outside. You pass windows alight with twin candles, from which strains of familiar tunes flow. The street signs at the corner bear the names of famous Jewish philosophers. There is no public transportation running, but if there were, you'd see neon Hebrew characters flashing brightly. If it was Sukkot, you'd observe three-sided huts lining the city's balconies. If it was Passover, certain aisles in the grocery store would be blocked off, and you could eat anything on restaurant menus because you'd know it would be kosher. If it was Yom Kippur, it would somehow be even quieter, and you could even take a nap in the middle of a busy intersection because absolutely no cars would be passing through. I've tried it, it's great. If it was Yom HaAtzmaut, Independence Day, the streets would be bustling with live music, covered with children's silly string, and filled with hundreds of people draped in blue and white. You may have guessed that I am asking you to imagine yourself in Israel. And even if you've never been, I am confident that you can still see it in your mind's eye, because you are part of Am Yisrael, the people of Israel. You have prayed countless times, Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, or Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. May the one who makes peace in the heavens grant peace to us and to all Israel. You've read stories about Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, whether they come from the Torah or from today's headlines. Israel embodies so many concepts all at once. It is the holiest of ancient lands, the center of modern conflict, the eternal aspiration for tolerance and peace. It is complicated. It can be uncomfortable. It is sacred. It is the only country in the world that runs on Jewish time. And each of you is connected to it because you are Jewish. In order to wrap our heads around all of Israel's qualities and identities, it is important to be informed. In her book, Israel, A Simple Guide to the Most Misunderstood Country on Earth, Israeli actress, entrepreneur, and writer Noah Tishby reminds us about a few basic facts. Fact 1, the state of Israel is approximately 8,019 square miles, about 700 miles less than the state of New Jersey. It takes about 6 hours to drive from north to south, and only an hour to drive from east to west. Fact 2, this pint-sized strip of land sits on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, south of Syria and Lebanon, west of Jordan, and north of Egypt. It's surrounded by 21 mostly Arab countries. Fact 3, there are no natural resources in Israel's grounds like there are with most of its neighbors. No diamonds, gold, or oil. And it is located in the driest part of the region. Despite this, Israel is the physical origin of two major monotheistic religions, Judaism and Christianity, and the third holiest place to Islam. Fact 4, before the modern-day establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, the land passed from the Kingdom of Israel to the Persians, the Greeks, the Hasmoneans, the Romans, the Byzantines, the Muslims, the Crusaders, the Mamluks, the Ottomans, and the Brits. This long history dating back to the Kingdom of Israel reflects where we are currently in our annual Torah reading cycle, towards the very end of our people wandering in the wilderness before arriving at the Promised Land. The Israelites, our ancestors, not yet called Jewish, receive many instructions from God that emphasize the profound connection between our religion and the land. These instructions are foundational to our tradition as we know it today. A more modern source that emphasizes our connection with the land is a song by Ehud Manor, a beloved Israeli songwriter, poet, and celebrity personality. Its title says it all. Ein li eretz acheret, I have no other country. The refrain of the song states, "I have no other country, even if my land is aflame. Just a word in Hebrew pierces my veins and my soul. With a painful body, with a hungry heart, here is my home." Ein lanu eretz acheret. Why do we need Israel? Because there is no other country for us. While other places have played formative and pivotal roles in Jewish history, there is no other land where you find more balconies with Sukkot on them than without. No other land where the smell of challah wafts out of windows on Friday evenings. No other land that primarily speaks Hebrew. No other land where even the public buses wish you a Chag Sameach, a happy holiday. Our Israelite ancestors would likely be overwhelmed by neon Hebrew on public transportation, yet the deep connection of our people to this sacred place remains. Israel is our homeland, our Eretz, our land, whether we've traveled there regularly or never even set foot on its soil. Even though we live in the diaspora, we still bear a deep connection with and responsibility for this tiny yet significant piece of land. And we can appreciate the sentiment that there is no other land for Israelis who have nowhere else to go. More than 50% of Israelis are not of European descent. Not only is there no land in Europe for white Jews to return after the Holocaust, but there's also no other place for millions of Middle Eastern and North African Jews to call home after being expelled from their lands. They have returned back to their ancient homeland with no desire to leave again. Ehud Manor's song, "I Have No Other Country," Ein li eretz acheret, also contains this verse, "I won't be silent because my country has changed her face. I will not give up reminding her and sing into her ears until she will open her eyes." This concept of not giving up on Israel is especially poignant for us at this moment in time because the Israeli government, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, is in a period of especially controversial decisions, which have alienated large portions of the Jewish population, both domestically and internationally. The current dominant coalition in the government includes fringe parties who do not represent Israelis, but instead came into power due to political maneuvering. Its leaders endorse bigotry and hate, and their policies will undoubtedly stoke those fires. In January of this year, the government proposed legislation that would significantly curb the power of the Israeli Supreme Court, changing the nature of checks and balances, and giving much more power to the Knesset, the body of elected officials, rather than the judiciary. Israel is internationally respected for having a high-functioning judiciary which makes important decisions and holds public figures accountable. Dismantling it may have a disastrous impact and is not the way to build societal consensus. Overall, our American reform movement, as well as our partner organization, the Israeli Movement for Reform and Progressive Judaism, disagrees with this legislation to curb judicial authority, sharing that these policies are a rejection of basic democracy and core human rights. Our engagement with the current Israeli government matters not just because it is taking place in the Jewish state, but because now more than ever, it is imperative for those in our world who are in favor of democracy to share their opinions and take action. Since this legislation was announced in January, hundreds of thousands of Israelis have protested all over the country, including many of my rabbinic colleagues. These protests transcend demographics and previous political involvement or lack thereof, because the protesters know that basic rights are at stake, and it is crucial for them to act. At the beginning of this week, the Israeli Supreme Court began to hear arguments about this controversial legislation, so the story is still very much unfolding. What's at stake for us, Diaspora Jews? Beyond Manor's insistence that we not give up because there is no other country for us, our ancient text has been urging us for centuries to stay connected to this sacred place. In the book of Deuteronomy, as we stand on the edge of the promised land, we read just a few weeks ago that God states, "Lo tuchal lehit alem," you must not remain indifferent. Rabbi Josh Weinberg, president of the Association of Reform Zionists of America, and Vice President of Israel and Reform Zionism for our Reform Jewish movement, urges us to follow God's commandment to not be indifferent with this plea. Let's start with knowledge and awareness. Read the news, read the legislation, and read the analysis that is being offered. If you don't want to support the Israeli government, Rabbi Weinberg says, be my guest, but please get to know and support the organizations on the ground in Israel itself that are doing the work, just as we do in the US. I would even take it one step further than Rabbi Weinberg does. Because Israel has so many identities and embodies so many concepts at once, that means that there are just as many ways for us to engage with it. Buy an Israeli cookbook and try some new recipes. Watch Israeli TV shows. There are plenty on lots of streaming sites. Learn some Hebrew words. Read poetry or novels by Israeli authors. Study Israel's history and develop your own informed opinions. Learn fun facts about Israel's innovation and the ways that it is a pioneer in the Middle East. I personally love turning on the Israeli Top 100 and hearing pop songs in Hebrew as I go about my day. The options are truly endless, and I'm always happy to recommend resources. What matters most is that we immerse and engage, that we not remain indifferent. Rabbi Weinberg continues by reminding us what is at stake with the following words. This moment calls for us all to think in the first person plural. What's happening to Israelis is happening to us too as Jews. Our values and security, our pride and identity are all affected by what Israel does. We need to start seeing ourselves as Jews who care about civil and human rights in the state of Israel, just as we are concerned about them in America. We need to see ourselves not as Americans versus Israelis, but as a united front to preserve democracy. This is our fight, and we're all in it together. This particular moment in Israel's modern history should prompt us to be critical about its government, yes, but it should also serve to remind us what exactly we're fighting for peace, in order to preserve the beauty, culture, and democracy of the miracle that is the Jewish state, that place where 2 candles glow in windowsills every Friday evening, and entire grocery aisles containing bread products are roped off during Passover, where people greet one another in the language of our prayer book, and you can visit an ancient historical biblical site the same day you take to the streets wielding your free speech in protest. Israel and Judaism are fundamentally intertwined with one another, and the moments of frustration and heartache are the moments in which it is most imperative to remember how important Israel is and how it is necessary for our religion to survive. There is no other land for us, so we want our land to be the best it can be. And our people's connection with the Holy Land is not just based in the past and present, but holds great significance for the future as well. By the time Israel turns 100 in 2048, 75% of world Jewry will be living there. Disconnecting from Israel does not merely impact a country, it will put the future of the entire Jewish people at stake. Mati Friedman, Yossi Klein Halevi, and Daniel Gordis are all brilliant North American-born scholars and writers who moved to Israel and for years have been sharing with us diaspora Jews their unique perspectives about living there. At the end of August, just a few weeks ago, they wrote an article about this current moment in time called Diaspora Jews, Time to Take a Stand, which is in the form of a letter. To our sisters and brothers in the diaspora, they call to us. With Israelis on the streets fighting for the liberal values they share with so many Jews around the world, this is no time for diaspora silence or alienation. To the contrary, when someone you love is in danger, you draw closer. After encouraging all of us to stay informed and join in the protests however we can, they move towards the conclusion of their letter with this paragraph. As Jerusalemites, we attend the remarkable protests here in our city outside the official residence of the president. Run by local volunteers, the Jerusalem protest has assumed the heterogeneous character of Jerusalem and has a vision with much to offer the Jewish world. Here, a legal scholar with a kippah might speak on the same podium as an activist for Bedouin women in the Negev. Rabbinic voices mix with those of LGBT activists. Here, the sea of Israeli flags seems like a symbol not of narrow nationalism, but of a state with broad horizons. That sea of Israeli flags publicly protesting their leaders for months is unprecedented in modern Israeli history. It is a miracle, a reminder to us of everything that Israel can be. Israel's small physical size belies the great importance that just 8,019 square miles of land holds in the hearts of our people, and the many complex identities that one country can inhabit. In ancient times, the Torah told us not to be indifferent, a lesson we read over and over each year. A modern poet publicly declared that there is no other country for us, ein li eretz acheret, even when the land is aflame. Countless people worked incredibly hard over centuries to ensure the existence of the Jewish state. And now, more than ever, it is crucial for us to draw closer, to see all that Israel can be. It is crucial for us to continue developing our knowledge and awareness of Israel's history and the facts on the ground. It is crucial for us to remember that there is no us versus them, Americans versus Israelis, but that the constantly unfolding story of this sacred land belongs to all of us, and we are caught up in its destiny. Avinu sheba shamayim, tzur Yisrael legoalo, barich et medinat Yisrael. Eternal One in the heavens, Rock and Redeemer of Israel, bless the country of Israel. Bless those who reside there, who are taking to the streets with their valuable voices. Bless those pioneers who dreamed of what it could be, who worked hard to make that vision come true and then handed the dream to us. Bless those who love Israel from afar, who desire to connect and support our precious and miraculous Jewish state. Give us strength to carry on the instructions from our tradition and our ancestors, both ancient and modern. Lo tuchal lehit alem, you must not remain indifferent, because ein lanu eretz acheret, for us there is no other land. Amen.